Here with Meyer, the director of Butcher's Stain, one of the live action Academy Award nominated films this year in the short film category. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with me today. The film is wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I would like to start by talking to you about how this film it seems to be about a lived experience that is very, very specific, and there's a lot of authenticity behind it, and in all of the characters' mentalities and their lived experiences. So I was wondering if you could talk a bit about how your own lived experience influenced the idea. I saw an interview with you where you talked about working at a supermarket post October 7th and that having been a major influence for you. So if there's anything you would like to add or speak about, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I worked at the supermarket after the 7th of October because there was no school. A lot of workplaces were closed, and I really needed something to do. I mean, it was sort of like the coronavirus, like everyone was indoors. So I went to work at the supermarket in my area. And the supermarket is a really interesting place because it's sort of this microcosm of Israeli society. It's a place where people go to work when there's no job, when they've gone bankrupt, or they're addicted to drugs, or they've been in jail. It's really a place where, low income people come to work, and people from all types of backgrounds are employees there. One of the things that I noticed after the 7th of October was this sort of tension between the Jewish workers and the Arab workers in the supermarket. And I thought of it sort of like a smaller version of Israeli society itself, and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And I really wanted to kind of capture that complex time where, on the one hand, you had the traumatic events of the 7th of October, and everyone was a part of the collective trauma of those events. But on the other hand, there was a finger pointed to the Palestinians within Israel, and there was a lot of unfair racism and discrimination that I witnessed. And I sort of wanted to talk about how collective trauma affects people, and how national crisis affects people, but also how it doesn't justify racism and discrimination against a certain ethnicity.
I was really compelled by your choice to cast yourself in the film as the perpetrator. And so I was curious about your process stepping into those shoes and trying to find this character's version of a justification for why he feels the way he does about Samir and why he chooses to make these accusations. Because obviously, it's revealed by the end of the film that the posters are falling off the wall, but in his mind, he just assumes that it's Samir who's doing it, even though it isn't. And so I was curious how you felt portraying a character like that and finding his own emotionality and why he feels the way he does.
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of the times people talk about how films change the world, and I think that I didn't want to give myself credit for. I mean, I feel like as filmmakers we can create dialogue, and that's really what this film is trying to do. But I feel like I didn't want to make a film about racism and discrimination and act like I've cleaned myself entirely for any
Mm.
responsibility or responsibility to for activism in that sense. So what I was really trying to say is I am a part of that society, and I'm as anyone in a society that's broken, I am also enabling anything that's a part of that society. So I think that I really wanted to show that I was a part of it, and that I wasn't, as a director making a film about racism and discrimination, cleaning myself of any responsibility or responsibility to go out and protest and vote and do anything that any citizen should do to stand up for what they believe in.
And you talked a bit about this earlier, and I was wondering about how if you could talk a bit about the compounding effects that discrimination like this has on people, especially when tensions are so high, especially during a conflict such as this, because as we see in the film, this conflict that he's having with his coworker is not the only thing going on in his life. You know, his partner's not letting him, his ex partner's not letting him see his son. Her new partner is giving him gifts that Samir doesn't approve of, and all of these things. And it just seems like everywhere he goes, he can't escape the dismissiveness of just himself and who he is and what he believes in. And so I was wondering if you could speak about the importance of a strength through unity, as you've mentioned before, and how there's obviously an analysis to be had, but there's also an importance of coming together in these moments and putting aside cultural differences or even personal differences. And so I was wondering if you could speak a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the point of this film is really to not be provocative or to, get people angry. It's really about opening up a dialogue about some of these issues. At times of national crisis and collective trauma, people tend to be silent about a lot of different things because they feel like it's not the time to talk about them. But that kind of mentality goes on for a very long time because people become afraid and of speaking about certain things. And this film is was supposed to open up that conversation. It was supposed to break the ice, and the only way to heal is to talk about things and to speak about what why I put Samir's personal life into the film. Essentially, what I was trying to say was, of course, that this racism and discrimination does have an effect on his personal life, but also that's the point. The point, the point is his personal life. It is who he is as a person. It's his family. It's him, and the point is to focus on that aspect of this story because it's not about the big picture. It's about the small picture, in my opinion. It's about the one individual who is going through this. It's not about an entire political mess or whatever's going on in the world. It's about the one person who is subjected to this behavior and this mistreatment, and focusing on that can give us a way to connect to these issues in a more humane and not in this big picture, policy thing that for individuals, at least for me, is a very frustrating experience trying to solve big issues instead of trying to focus on one person's issues.
Mhm. It's very interesting. I see that a lot in the way Samir chooses to act in these instances when he gets angry and he's holding the knife and he has to really check himself. And it seems like he's the only one that seems to be doing that in a like when he's the one being perpetrated against, he still seems to be the only one who's really seeing the part that he's playing in this game, so to speak. And I was really moved by his decision to not tell the coworkers that it was the fan. It feels because it almost feels to him like it's not going to make a difference if I tell them that it was the fan. They're not going to feel any differently about me. And I don't I don't mean to ask you to get speculative or whatever, because obviously the ambiguity is very important to the film. But I'm curious in your mind if there ever would be something that would have changed their minds, or if he had said something, would it have influenced them any differently? Was the cynic in him? Did the cynic in him overcome the ability for a conversation, or just any possible situation where something good could have come out of this conflict in the supermarket?
Yeah, well, I think that the way that I've been seeing things in not just in Israel but worldwide is that a lot of beliefs, a lot of racism and discrimination is very deep into our conscience. It's not going to take one thing or one news story or one act of violence to change people's opinions. People's opinions are very integrated into their emotions and to the way that they think about the world. So that's basically what Samir realizes at the end. He realizes that he can say the air conditioner is doing it, but when he looks at the faces of the people that have been acting this way towards him, and accusing him of this and suspecting him of this, is that he sees that in their eyes it's still deeply implemented into their emotions, the way that they feel about him. And so what I was trying to say is change is not that easy. Change is a very, very slow um, uh, thing. It's a very slow. It's something that you have to have a lot of patience for, and it happens, not when you're planning, and you can't just, argue your way towards change. It's something that a society needs to go through, and it's a very complicated thing. And me as a director and a writer, I don't have a solution. I don't know how society can get rid of those beliefs that are so much implemented into the way that they think. But I will say that at the end, Samir is looking into the camera at that last scene
Mm.
where the camera is kind of pulling back, and that was my way of saying that was my way of uh, getting Samir to basically say to the audience, breaking the fourth wall, I've done everything that I can, and now it's your turn.
Mm.
I've been silent. I've tried to prove my innocence silently while not bothering anyone, and that didn't work. I tried confronting and standing up for myself and what I believe in, and that didn't work. And now it's your turn as people from Israel or worldwide to stand up for what we believe in and to push for change and to have respectful dialogue and to be adult about and to be um, serious and patient and try to bring change to society.
I'm really glad you brought that up. That really leads me into my final question because I was going to talk to you about the cinematography overall. The film is very tight, even when you're shooting in like a medium wide. When he's looking at Near and the store manager from behind the boxes, the depth of field is still very narrow, and there's a lot of handheld when the camera is moving. But in the very end, you choose to dolly away, and you still get to see the hostage posters and the sides of the frames, even though your focus is essentially on Samir's face as he stares directly down the barrel, so to speak. And so I was curious about your crafting of that symbolism. I know that you mentioned your purposes behind it, but just how the cinematography of the rest of the film influenced that choice and what made you choose to be significantly, for lack of a better term, neater with how it was dolly back and presented.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great question. The film itself had a very closed uh, cinematic language, because it was supposed to feel suffocating. For me, after the events of the 7th of October, I felt like everyone was like not getting enough oxygen.
Mm.
That's what it felt like. Everyone was shutting up. No one was talking, and it was horrible. And I felt like Samir's character feels like it's just the world is closing in on him, and he feels like he's suffocating. And so that's why a lot of the shots are very, they're close-ups, and they're POVs, and everything seems very, very narrow. At the end, I think that what opens up, um, the reason why I open up that shot, and I sort of break the language, and I have this camera movement that's smooth that I didn't have before, um, was to sort of say, now that he's gone through all of this, and now that he's tried everything, I think that it opens up a place for change. You know, it's like society. It keeps on closing in and closing in and closing in and closing in and closing in, and at some point, it closes in so much that everything just um, you know sort of is able to open up again. Um, and I think that out of times that are hard and that are, traumatic, I think come times where we can implement change that is practical, that we know we learn lessons from history and we're able to do things differently. And I think as a worldwide society, we're going through a lot of extremism all around the world, and we're all very frustrated from it, and we all don't understand why this is the way it is. But I really do believe that after this period of time, we will be able to learn lessons on how to live in harmony with each other, and how to have respectful conversations, and how to um, develop as a worldwide society.
That's a great answer. And on that note, I'm gonna say just congratulations one more time on the film. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate your answers, and I can't wait to see more from you. This film's great, and